Okay, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It. Daf Yomi Shir led by the one, the only, Ner Neshama, Ben Sion Lang. What? Oh, he's going to bring a Ner Neshama in honor of Shemor Chai. Okay, good, we have to have this. Shmuel, come. I need some action over here. Come, I want to dance. Bar Yochai. This is a Lag BaOmer edition of Daf Yomi. The first room, come right here. Sit down next to me, Shmuel. No one's davening. He's not. He says okay. He told me he's mochel. He told me he's mochel. He is Rav Shimon Yochai. You know, like this Gilei Eliyahu. All right. No one wants to sit down. If you notice, thank God, there's a heter to shave on Lag BaOmer. I took full advantage of that. First thing I did in the morning when I woke up, after I brushed my teeth, was to shave. Felt so good. To get that beard, it was really a weight weighing down on me. It really, Shmuel, you don't know how great it was to shave today. You don't even know the ecstasy I felt when I was shaving. You know, each hair that I took off, you know, it resonated in my mind. You know, every hair that fell, I was dancing. It was like a dance around the fire, the bonfire. Huh? Just sit down. You can sit there in 2 minutes. Just show your face. Okay, I can't move. I started the shir already. You either want to be part, he's leaving. Oh, you want to be part? He's Mashiach, this guy. He's Mashiach Yamaka. Wait, you think Atach Hoshev Shalabavish Rebbe Yam Mashiach? Alright, he has a Mashiach. All Me'ad. What does it say on the Yamaka? Alright, Shmuel doesn't want to be part of it. Alright, we're going to start the shir. Ayin Beis Mid Beis. It's very exciting today here in Israel. It's Lag BaOmer. That means that my kids are off from school, which is terrible. So my wife is burdened with 4 kids at home, young kids at home. So it's not a great day in that area. I'm not sure what you do during a Lag BaOmer, getting haircuts. If you didn't check it, I did make a video last year about Lag BaOmer. Didn't make one this year. My video, I think, suffices from last year. I talked about the significance, all the different mitzvahs hayom of Lag BaOmer. You have a mitzvah hayom with getting a haircut, mitzvah hayom with listening to music, not a cappella, and mitzvah hayom making a bonfire. I didn't make a bonfire. I went to a bonfire last night, danced a little bit with my kids, and then I came home. I took out my George Foreman and I grilled. I didn't barbecue it. I also have a video about that. There's barbecuing and grilling. You don't want to miss that. Check it out. I'm the only one really, maybe on the whole internet, who gave you the difference in barbecuing and grilling. Lag BaOmer is the barbecue of the year with open fire, but now Israel said you're not supposed to have so many bonfires, it's dangerous. So instead of bonfire, we're turning to the grilling of the year. Grilling has the grill marks, you know, at George Foreman, the grill marks. We had baby chicken, pargi, 2 packages last night. I made it delicious on George Foreman. If you didn't know this, you could buy a George Foreman. You don't have to buy a whole electric grill. Buy a George Foreman, put your pargi, put your steak, put your lamb chops on there. It comes out really good. Don't put any spices. My sister-in-law tasted it. She's like, wow, this is really good. You know, well, you can put some like really nice spices in here. I said, no spices, no oil, nothing. Good meat loses its quality when you add anything to it. The meat itself is good by itself. That includes rib steak, it includes lamb chops, it includes baby chicken, which is called pulled steak, if you want to call it a steak. Anyway, that was how I was Mekayim Lag BaOmer this year. I grilled this year. Last year I barbecued. I made a fire, a small bonfire. I roasted some onions and marshmallows and potatoes, because barbecuing is slow roasting. Grilling is fast with the grates. Hot dogs, hamburgers for the poor people, and pulled steak for the rich people like me. All right, let's get into it. We're on the bottom here, Ayin Beis Mid Beis. The Gemara says, we had a machlokes about who could be makadesh the mechatas. When you make the mechatas to sprinkle on a dead person, so when he became Tommy Mace, he came in contact with a dead person to sprinkle on him. To make him tar, you sprinkle on the 3rd and 7th day, but you have to prepare the water. Who could prepare it? Can an androgynous, someone's a hermaphrodite, has both male and female genitals, could he do it or not? So the words of Azul Tamayu, they went according to the reasoning, were about 7 lines from the bottom, 8 lines from the bottom. Azul Tanya, Kol Cherem L'Kadesh. The right is that everyone can be Makadesh, can mix these ashes with the water. in order to prepare the sprinkling. Chutz mechereshot v'katan, except for chereshot v'katan, these people are mentally deficient. Rabbi Yehuda machshir v'katan, he says a katan would be okay, opposed to isha androgynous, but he argues on some other account. He says a woman or an androgynous because she's a suffix, he's a suffix woman, can't do it. My time with the Rabban, it's the reason the Rabban. T'chsev alach l'tamei me'afar shreifa sachatas, hanach the pasi b'asifa, psulim b'kiddush, hanach the ksherim b'asifa, ksherim b'kiddush. There's a connection. V'lach l'tamei me'afar shreifa sachatas. There's a connection between the gathering of the ashes. When you burn the parah aduma, you have to gather the ashes, and which it says v'lach l'tamei me'afar shreifa sachatas, and then mixing it. So it says when you gather the ashes from the burnt parah aduma, that it says v'ish. So ish has to be a man and not katan. Katan is not considered ish. He's not considered bar mitzvah yet. And also people that are similar to a katan, cherish and shota also. So therefore they're not kosher. If it was true that a cherish shota and katan are not kosher to mix the water, it would say v'lakach, my v'lakchu, extra plural. That feel hak the psulin. Even though there it says v'ish, they're apostle ksherim hacha. Here, when it comes to mixing the mechatas, they'll be kosher. Ihaki isha nami. So why is Yehuda apostle by isha? So the Gemara he darshas v'nasan v'lo nasna. It says v'lach me'afar shreicha chadas v'nasan. It says v'nasan, which is masculine. And female wouldn't be able to do it. Rabbanon say a woman would be okay. It says v'lachach v'nasan hava mina shakil chad v'yayiv chad. And the reason it says V'lachu v'nasan, it says, if it just said v'lachu v'nasan in singular, I would think one person has to take the ashes and one person has to mix them. Therefore, even two people or multiple people can take the ashes. Because of Rahman of v'lachu v'nasnu, if it says both plural, having the shak you need a plural amount both to gather the ashes and to mix them. Because of Rahman of v'lachu v'nasan, one plural, one singular, even if two take it or more people than one take it, and even if one person mixes it, it would be okay. Article is mashma that either the opposite also would be okay if one person took it and two people mixed it, or more than two people mixed it, it would be okay. That's why it says. So therefore, you can't infer from there that a nasan only masculine, not female. So where it says Ayin Gilam and Aleph on the top, he's a Torah Tame. We're darshaning more things about parah aduma. How do we get the parah aduma? I don't know. We're in parah aduma now, but he's a Torah Tame. The Torah, a person who's Torah, sprinkles the water on the Tame person. The one who's Tame is Torah Michlal Shu Tame. Why does it signify that he's Torah? Of course he has to be Torah. Sounds like he's Tamei in some regard. Meaning it's talking about someone who really was Tamei. He went to the mikvah, but there wasn't Herav Shemesh. He's called a Tvul Yom. So he's a Tvul Yom, it's still a day. He did a Tefillah, but it's still a day. It's not Seis Chavim yet. So therefore, even though for some things like eating Truma he can't do, like the Mishnah, like the Gemara says in Daf Beis and Brachos, you remember, you have to wait for Seis Chavim there. He is kosher b'parah. He's Torah regarding this, that even though he's telling me for certain things, he's Torah during that day before nightfall to sprinkle the parah aduma, the ashes. Here we have a fascinating question from Rav Sheshas. Hashem Shalcha. Shmuel. Yesh li she'ela b'shvach Shmuel. HaGemara shoel, Arel mahu b'maiser. אתה שמעת על השאלה הזו? מה זה שמואל פה? כן, מה אתה חושב? מה התירוץ לשאלה הזו? אתה למדת יבמוס? You learned Mesachas Yevamos? Ba'avar, he learned it. So, what's the answer to this question? HaGemara lo poshet. The Gemara doesn't give a maskana. Can an Arel eat meiser? An Arel who mutter b'meiser or lo mutter b'meiser? Or you say Shalat Neza. Arel mutter b'truma or lo? Arel mutter b'truma? Can an Arel eat truma or not? Truma, ma'alacha. Well, I think אני חושב שאתה צריך ללמוד דף יומי. אם אתה לא יודע, זה המשנה הראשונה בפרק האורל. פרק האורל, מסכת יבמוס. זה לומדים את זה בישיבות. אתה לא יודע התירוץ הזה? שמואל, מה קורה פה? צריך מיד, you have to immediately להצטרף לשיר שלי. ללמוד דף יומי. יש בעיה פה. הוא לא יודע. What's ההלכה שמואל? אורל could eat truma or not? זה תלוי. What? תלוי in what? It's not a machlokes. It's very clear. Shmuel, another Shmuel. What do you say? There, finally Shmuel made it over here. I'm meeting a lot of Shmuels over here. This is my third Shmuel. Shmuel Witel, Shmuel Silver. Ma Hashem Acharon Shalcha? Mishpacha Shalcha? Corn? Kohen. Are you a Kohen? Oh, you got to know this. You got to know this because you could eat Truma. Shmuel's a Kohen. And are you in a not an Arel? You had a bris milah, Shmuel? Is that bris milah, Shmuel? Oh man, oh, we didn't lose it. Thank God it didn't shut off. Somehow it fell out of the tripod. I guess I was asking too many crazy questions over here. All right, Shmuel had a milah, so and the halacha is that an Arel can't eat. So if you're an Arel, that's a Mishnah Rishona, a Peraka Arel, he can't eat truma, right? There's two makoros for this, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Lazar, whatever the makor is. And Ian Ben Sion, this is what I'm giving the Shirin Ben Sion today to figure out what's the halacha on Arel eating meiser. It's not clear from the Gemara. We're going to learn that toloi be hamachlokes lama Arel pasal betruma. Is it mishum mos or mishum atuma? Zet toloi machlokes Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam. Ma pshat the Mishnah Arel. The Arel is a meiswa yachav machmas mila. Oh, is it mishumad la arelos? Zet toloi habaha. I'm going to give Ian Ben Sion. I give good shirim, no? All right. So the Gemara says that's going to be the topic of Ian Ben Sion. This is the question. Arel, what's the halacha? Could an Arel eat meiser? Could he eat meiser? We know he can't eat truma from the first Mishnah. By Pesach also an Arel can't eat a korban Pesach. Just like we learned Pesach by meiser, right? It says by meiser sheni, an onain can't eat meiser sheni. You're not allowed to eat while you're onain, when you're about to bury a dead person. So therefore, you're also not allowed to eat Pesach. Not clear how we know, is it a Gzeir Shava? It's very unclear how we connect Meiser Sheni to Pesach. Is that a Kal V'chomer? Is it Gzeir Shava? Tosas talks about this. Then Aninas, Yalif Nami, Meiser and Pesach, and Arela. So just like we learned from Aninas from Meiser to Pesach, we learn from Pesach to Meiser. It's like Pesach, it says in the Torah, and Arel can't eat the Korban Pesach. So therefore, with Meiser, and Arel can't eat Meiser Sheni. Meiser Sheni we're talking about. Al Dilma Chomer Mikal Yalif, Pesach is Kachim, it's more Chomer than Meiser Sheni. Kal Mechomer Yalif, but you can't learn Meiser Sheni, which is more Kal from Korban Pesach. Those ask the obvious question. Of course you can't learn. Who's to say a more Chomer thing you can learn to Kal? Kal V'chomer, it's not called Chomer V'Kal. That's the question. We're going to have to talk about that in Yud Ben Sion. Amar Lahu, so he answered back to Tani Sul. We have a Braisa which says explicitly we can answer from the Braisa our question. Truma v'bikurim chayavin alei misa v'chomish v'asurin lezarin. Truma and bikurim. Truma, we know. Truma and bikurim are the first fruits of the Zion minim that grow in your field in Eretz Yisrael. You have to bring them to the Kohanim and give them to the Kohanim. Chayavin alei misa v'chomish. If a non-Kohen eats them, he's chayav misa b'dei shamayim. V'chomish. You also pay a penalty to the Kohen you stole it from. The Asur and the Zara, 1/5. The Asur and the Zara, they're Asur to foreign people who are not Kohanim. Hey Nichse Kohen, they belong to the Kohen. Olden Be'echad Omeya, they're Batel, 1 Omeya. If Truma gets mixed into 100 of Chulin, it's Batel. You can eat the whole mixture, even a Zara, even in Israel. But Tunin, Rechitzas Yadayim Herav Shemesh. They need Rechitzas Yadayim, just like we learned by Truma. The Gemara in Shabbos learns if you want to eat Truma, Stam Yadayim, your hands are called Shnios, right? There goes there in Mesach Shabbos that if you didn't wash your hands, they get a status of Sheni L'Tuma. And Truma, maybe also Bikurim, can get Shlishi L'Tuma. Already Chulin can become a Shlishi L'Tuma, but Truma could, and maybe Bikurim also. So therefore you have to wash your hands before eating them. Meher of Shemesh. You also need, when you become Torah for them, not only do you have to, like we mentioned, you have to go to the mikvah, you also have to wait for Seis HaKochav. Harei B'Truma Bikurim. These apply to Truma Bikurim. Mashenki B'Meiser. By Meiser, all these halachas don't apply. The Misa, if there's another difference, and this is the Arel Aser Bahen. Mashenki B'Meiser. If Arel is really mutter by Meiser, so it should say also another difference in Truma and Bikurim. They're Aser. Truma and Bikurim are Aser to an Arel. And an Arel is mutter and Meiser. They didn't say that. Obviously, an Arel is Aser and Meiser also. The Gemara says it's not a V'Shayir. It's not a good proof. The Brisa listed some things, and it left some things out. Amai v'shayir, the high shire. If you're going to say that, you have to prove that something else is left out. It's not good enough to just leave one thing out. The proof is left at least 2 things out. The Ketani Seifa, shire, it did indeed leave other things. The Ketani Seifa, the end of the Brisa says, Yesh Meiser Bikurim. There are certain stringencies which apply to Meiser Shein and Bikurim. Mashen came in Truma that don't apply to Truma. Shem Meiser Bikurim, Tunin Havas Makom. Meiser Shein and Bikurim you have to bring to Yerushalayim. Tunin Vidoy, you have to do a Vidoy. It says by Meiser Shein, you have to say that after the 4th year, Meiser Sheni is during the 3rd and 6th year, you have to say Be'arti v'kodesh v'meni, I got rid of it. You have to mavada You have to admit that you got rid of it. V'asr la'onein, they're both asr to an onein. Shimon, we know obviously truma is mutter to an onein. The Gemara said, right? Zaras amarti lacha v'lo aninas. Rabbi Shimon matir. Rabbi Shimon allows an onein to partake of bikurim. Chayavin b'biur. They're chayavin in biur. They're chayav in to get rid of them. Right? You have to get rid of them out of your house. You can't keep them. Rabbi Shimon poter. Shimon says you don't have to. Chayavin in biur. Shimon, you don't have to actually get rid of bikurim. V'ilu asr levar mehem betuma. There's other differences we know. There's other differences that bikurim and meiser have that truma doesn't have. For example, levar mehem betuma. That truma. That becomes tameh if you want a Kohen can't eat it obviously, but he could use it as oil. Let's say it's olive oil. He wants to burn some food. He wants to cook some food. He can use olive oil to light the fire to cook the food, even though it's tameh, which is not true by meiser food, meiser oil or bikurim oil. But ochlan betumas atzma loka. And another strange thing on meiser and bikurim, on top of buying gilum and beis, is that if it is tameh, the meiser sheni itself, you're tahor, the Kohen is tahor, but the meiser sheni or the bikurim are tameh. So then you get malchus, which is not true by truma. Truma, you get malchus if you're tameh, the Kohen, you eat tahor truma. But if you're tahor as a Kohen and the truma is tameh, you wouldn't get malchus. B'ashen came a truma. Lokasani alma tani v'shayir. So you see tani v'shayir. So just like it left those things out, it also left the difference that the other thing. Also, there's another difference that an orel would be allowed to eat meiser. What? I think you still can't eat it. I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not sure. I think. What? I think maybe you actually are. The Gemara talks about that a truma, a Kohen who's tameh could eat truma who's tameh. I'm not sure. This is an interesting question. I'm thinking about it. So it seems to be the maskan of the Gemara is that meiser you could eat. Meiser you could eat as an arel. An arel could eat meiser. We'll have to get back to this and see to really figure out what the halacha is. Now we're going to go back to this brisa and try to analyze it. Asur la'onein, Reb Shimon matir. It's a machlokas whether bikurim is asur for an onein, someone who just had a relative, one of the zayin krom died, didn't bury him. Reb Shimon matir, Shimon allows it. Menalduhu, where do they derive this machlokas from? The chsiv lo sucha lecha v'sharecha meiser degancha v'zroshcha v'torecha. It says you're not supposed to eat certain things in your cities. You have to go to Shalayim. Trumas yadcha. Right? It's not a meiser sheni. Trumas yadcha, it includes trumas yadcha. Amar, what is trumas yadcha? Elu bikurim. The Gemara in Makos arrives that trumas yadcha doesn't refer to truma. Actually, it refers to actually bikurim. Iskish bikurim l'meiser. So you see the pasuk linked meiser and bikurim. Ma meiser asr la'onein, just like meiser explicitly the Torah says the achalti mena ba'oni. Af bikurim asr la'onein. So therefore, it's conclusive bikurim is asr la'onein. Rabbi Shimon truma karin ra'achmana. He says no. The fact that what Torah called bikurim, you're right, it is refers to bikurim, but it called it truma. Ma truma muteres la'onein. The reason it referenced it as truma, ma truma muteres la'onein, is like truma we proved before. Zarus amari l'chab lo aninos af bikurim muter la'onein. So bikurim is also muter to an onein. V'chayavim b'biur, and they're chayav in biur to get rid of them. Rabbi Shimon poter. Rabbi Shimon says you don't have to get rid of a bikurim. Mar makish, mar lo makish. Same machlokas, right? Meiser sheni says you have to get rid of it, right? You have to get rid of it. Bi'artim min bias. You have to get rid of it. So therefore, this pasuk links bikurim and meiser. So therefore, the Tanakama holds you have to get rid of bikurim also. Kohen has to get rid of bikurim. You give it to him. He has to get rid of it. He can't just hold on to it forever. And Rabbi Shimon is not makish. He holds you learn from truma. There's no chiyuv to get rid of truma. But also levar mehen betuma va'ochlan betumas atzman loka minolan. So now the Brisa conveniently left out certain things. These two facts, right, that apply. Differences that apply truma we don't find meiser and bikurim. There are chumras over there. So where do you know from the time Rabbi Shimon Omer lebar mina betame? It says in the pasuk by Meiser Sheni, I didn't get rid of it betame while there was tuma. Bein shani tame v'utar. It's inclusive. Whether I'm tame as a person and the Meiser Sheni is tar, meaning I ate it while I'm tame is tar. Bein shani tar v'u tame. Both are us. Even if the Meiser Sheni is tame and I'm tar, it would still be a problem. V'heicha muzar ala chilasa. But how do you know that you can't eat it? Right, that's talking about biarti is to destroy it, meaning, let's say, to light it under your fire, to use it as oil to burn your stove. But to actually eat it, Reb Shimon admits there's no real clear conclusive proof that you can't eat it when it's tummy, when Meiser Sheni is tummy. Tumas haguf behedya ksivbe. So the Gemara questions, and we learned both of these things, whether the person is tamei or whether the ma'aser sheni is tamei. Tumas haguf behedya ksiv. You don't need to learn that from the pasuk, from that pasuk. Nefesh tiga bava tama ada erev. Someone who touches sheretz, touches tumas ames, he's tamei ada erev. Lo yichal min hakadshim. Actually, not tumas ames. You wouldn't be tamei ada erev. Tumas sheretz, let's say. Lo yichal min hakadshim. He can't eat from the kadshim. Kim rachad b'sarav amayim. You have to go to the mikvah. Achtin kami boile. So that's including. And there we learn from that pasuk that kadshim are it's a reference also to ma'aser sheni. The Gemara elsewhere says that. So there, ma'aser sheni you can't eat when you're tamei. So this is what it means to say tumas atzmo minayin. The Bryce is just answering tumas atzmo when the ma'aser sheni itself is tamei. Of course, we know from elsewhere that when you're tamei, when the body of the person is tamei, you can't eat Torah ma'aser sheni. But when the ma'aser sheni is tamei, that's where we learn Talmud Lomar lo sukal l'chal b'sharecha ma'aser gancha lahalan homer. It says you can't eat ma'aser sheni in your cities, and then later on it says that when it comes to a bachor who becomes tamei, a bachor is firstborn animal that's born in your flock. You have to give to a kohen. B'sharecha tochlenu. If it gets a mum, then you could eat it, or the kohen could eat it. Hatame v'atar, normally it's brought as a korban, but if it gets a mum, you could eat it. Hatame v'atar yachtav k'tziv v'ayal. This is by eating a bachor, even a tamei v'atar could eat it yachtav. Tanat be'er Rishmal, afilu tamei v'atar olchen al shulchan echad. Even if tamei and tamei are next to each other, so they're both touching the main platter. The kara achas, they're touching the main serving bowl. Ve'ein choshen. We're not worried that the actual bachor is going to be tamei. Kamarachmana ahu da amri lecha hasam b'sharecha dachlenu hachal oseichal. There, or bachor, where it says where it has tumas atzmo, you could eat it. Here, that's where it's saying, ma'aser sheni lo sucha lecha b'sharecha. We learn gzera b'sharecha sharecha that even though there b'sharecha you could eat it, but bachor you could eat it when the bachor is tamei, has a mum and it's tamei. But when it comes to ma'aser sheni, you can't eat it when it's tamei. So therefore, we're falling off the original limit. We're learning it from over here. So the Mashenkin, back to the Bryce, Mashenkin Mitruma Minolan. How do you know the Gemara was medayik? The Gemara inferred that Truma is not true. Minolan. How do you know this? How do you know that by Truma you're allowed to consume it, even though it's tamei, as long as you don't eat it, you're allowed to burn it under your stove, to use it as fuel for your stove. It says Mimenu. By ma'aser sheni you can't use it for other purposes, but if the truma is tamei, you could. But maybe why should we medayik that truma you could? Maybe kodesh, right? It's actually consecrated as a korban. It should be wine or something like that, or oil that's consecrated as a korban that became tamei. You should be able to use it as fuel for your stove. Lav kal v'chomer. The Gemara says kal v'chomer. Ma'aser akal amar Torah lo bartem enu b'tamei. Kodesh chamer lo kol sheken. If ma'aser sheni, which is more kal, it's more lenient in many respects. Certainly, you can use kodesh for your fuel. Truma is also more stringent in many ways than ma'aser sheni. We have a pasuk mimenu to memayit, something that you actually could use it for. So truma. Which is more logical to exclude and which is more logical to include? Kodesh lamimatina. There's a reason I wouldn't come to exclude kodesh when I say kodesh would be aser. Shekain pankas pigul. There's a lot of chumras by kodesh. First of all, it's pigul. If you have the wrong kavanas when you're makar something as a korban, right? You ruin it. No star. If you leave it over past this amount, it becomes no star. It's a lav to eat no star. Korban. It's actually a korban. A korban is a korban. There's me'ilah. Me'ilah. Korban is kodesh. Me'ilah. If you benefit from it inappropriately from korbanos, you commit me'ilah. You have to bring an asham me'ilos. You have to pay a chomesh kares. If you eat kodesh when you're tamei, you have kares for aser la'onin, and kodesh can't be eaten by an onin. Adarab, truma lo matina. Maybe truma is more chomer. Shekain machpas misa b'dei shamayim. If you're a zar, if you're a Yisrael and eat truma, you're chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. Chomesh, you're chayiv also chomesh, a fifth. If you're a non-kohen who's eating truma, ve'in la pidyon. You can't be poda truma. Kadshem, you technically be poda. You can remove the kedusha onto money, but truma you can't do that. Asur lazarim, and also it's asur lazarim. Kadshe kalim, certain types of kohanos can actually be eaten by a Yisrael. So the more chumra is kodesh kodshim have more chumras than truma. So therefore, we'll say that the chumrah is by kodesh, that you can't be, just like ma'aser sheni, you can't be use it as fuel for your fire. So they're told to by kodshim, but truma we would say would be okay. Alternatively, another reason that kodshim is more chumrah is because kares is a worse punishment than misa b'dei. What is misa b'dei? What is kares? We don't exactly know. Kares, the Gemara says, ririm, you lose your children. If you have children, you're not going to have children. If you don't have children, you'll die before 60. Misa b'dei shamayim is a little unclear, but for what the Gemara says clearly, that misa b'dei shamayim is not as chumrah as kares. So therefore, kodshim you can't benefit from in any way, but truma you could benefit from if it's tameh, as long as you burn it as fuel for your stove and you don't actually eat it, consume it. That is the conclusion of today's shir. Just Daf It. Stay tuned for Union with Ben Sion, where we'll discuss what I talked about with my friend Shmuel HaKohen, who hopes one day to eat truma, and we're going to find out what about meiser. Can an RL eat meiser? Shmuel luckily has a bris milah, but an RL, if you don't have a bris milah, can you eat meiser or not? Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it. Bye.